Death, rebirth, religious symbolism, omnipotent overseers of the game we call life, utilizing their pawns to make moves towards a boundless goal. What does this all have in common? I'm going to talk to you guys about an upcoming South Korean anime manhwa adaptation called Solo Leveling. Solo Leveling is a manga about Jin-woo, who's known as the world's weakest dungeon hunter. He gains incredible powers and courage to become the strongest in a world filled with monsters. It was written by Chugong and illustrated by the late Jang Sung-rak. The original release date of Chapter 1 was July 25th, 2016 by a company called Kakao Page in South Korea. November 4th of that year, DNC Media picked it up as a webtoon. After 179 and some odd chapters, its finale was on December 29th, 2021. Despite delays, it's getting an anime adaptation this year by A1 Studios. It's a good thing Mappa didn't pick this one up because I heard their employees haven't slept in months. The first chapter begins with our 20-year-old protagonist Sung Jin-woo reaching for a sword while clearly injured. He's being pinned down by these giant golems with weapons on some kind of altar. Honestly, it's kind of refreshing not having the protagonist be a 16-year-old kid who somehow looks like Zac Efron. Golems are anthropomorphic creatures from Jewish folklore. Typically, they're made up of some kind of earth and controlled by their master. So realistically, we can assume someone or something is controlling these husks. We can see the inspiration from the 1920 movie The Golem. The draped samurai-style clothing and large headpieces are similar in the two works. It's also interesting seeing the ritualistic circle underneath Jin-woo. Typically, golems are created by some type of magic or essence using a circle just like that. It's ironic that the circle brings life to the golems in the same spot where it seems Jin-woo will perish. These circles have been seen in all kinds of pop culture and anime used for various reasons. Primarily, they are used to summon someone or something. We've also seen them used for protection, which is actually not their intended use. They were heavily popularized by Christianity in the Byzantine Empire. It was primarily used as a means to enchant someone, but slowly began to see a darker role. Necromancers began to use them for diabolical purposes, like sacrifices and attempts at reviving the dead. Ironically, in the story of Benvenuto Cellini, they used the circle to protect them from demons. In true necromancy lore, they are merely used as a focus of power for the magician and by no means offer protection. This is quite similar to Jin-woo's scenario because he's in that circle being attacked. If you're enjoying the video, Jin-woo would appreciate if you drop a follow. In Chapter 3, we finally see the doors to the main dungeon open. We're met with a large circular room. The room has 13 statues in the formation of a circle, with one in the center, furthest back, being the god. 13 is not a random number. It has many deeper meanings behind it. Primarily, it symbolizes the death to the matter or to oneself, and the birth to the spirit. The passage on a higher level of existence, as we see Jin-woo change from a
big mistake.
This story is all about reincarnation and rebirth, as we see Jin-woo change from a traditional weakling to a god. The first few panels do a great job at depicting both creation and death. This is heavy foreshadowing for what's to come. We eventually see the group begin to read a tablet inscribed on a stone being held by what seems to be an angel or grim reaper. The label reads, "Commandments of the Cardanon Temple." These are essentially a nod toward the 10 Commandments from Christianity. It states, "Thou shalt worship God. Thou shalt praise God. Those who fail to obey the commandments shall not be spared." As they finish reading, the carnage ensues. This is an interesting parallel as the 10 Commandments are guidelines for the people of God to follow in order to be good Samaritans and ascend to heaven, once again demonstrating the idea of a new form of existence. The consequences of not following the commandments and being a sinner is essentially going to hell, which in terms of this manga is just death. The way the system works is a hierarchy of difficulty from E, D, C, B, A, and S. From easiest to hardest. The dungeon was labeled as a level D, but it's clearly not. It turns out to be an S-level double dungeon, and for some reason, Jin-woo's fate was to be the person to challenge God. The main statue has a large hat and crown that also has ties to Christianity. The Pope, which is the head of the Roman Catholic Church, has a similar headdress, and Jesus had a crown of thorns as well. Thorns are meant to be a symbol of pain, burden, suffering, and sin. It also has tears pouring down his face, which is similar to those of weeping statues. These statues are believed to have tears stream down their face due to some supernatural means. It's interesting that the main statue has this, and it sheds tears from the same eyes that it uses massive lasers to absolutely destroy people with. As the statue begins to reign its terror, we see Jin-woo learn to follow the rules of the commandments. They use the statues in the room holding the instruments to play a song of worship towards the god statue. This is similar to a psalm in a church gathering. The ritualistic altar rises and demands one person stay as a sacrifice. Jin-woo offers, saving the rest of the party and what also seems to be his love interest. And this is the beginning of his quest, Courage of the Weak. In order to continue living, he begs for another chance and is granted just that. And with this begins the rebirth of Jinwoo. We see what looks like a video game system prompt him to make a choice, and Jinwoo says yes. There's so much more to unpack with this story and so many others, and I can't wait to dig deeper with you guys. Push it to your max, Pepper out.